Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Mona Lisa, can you hear me? Mona Lisa, can you hear me? Okay. So, one thing I just want to review is whatever class we are talking here, I'm going to record these videos and put them on a YouTube channel. So, just going to YouTube Oracle by example. Usha has already sent you this link, Mona Lisa. Go to playlists and you see this Oracle class 2016. I'm going to keep updating this playlist. When we finish our class, I'll just upload it here and you'll be able to watch it again. Do you have any questions before we start the class today? Okay, so let's get started. First thing we'll talk about today is I was thinking because we are going to start talking about Oracle SQL and PL SQL. First of all, objective for what we are trying to do here is we'll review Oracle SQL and PL SQL for a person who might be applying for like SQL developer job or Informatica developer job. So this has nothing to do with Oracle administration. It is more like you knowing what to expect from the development side of it. And also, I'm not going to spend time on making you expert on this, but I will show you every single option available. So that way, you know, if you go and somebody asks you a question, you will be at least able to figure out and answer those questions, and then you'll be able to continue to work later on. So that is the key to start Oracle. Now, Oracle itself is a database. We talked about database, metadata, data dictionary, stuff like that. Now, as a developer, when you go somewhere like there will be a Oracle server running, and your database administrator will be able to provide you some details on how to connect and all that. So first of all, what is SQL, right? It is a structured query language. Structured query language, and this is just a language which tells, okay, how can you write commands, like so how can you create tables or how can you interact with a database. All databases like Oracle, MySQL, let's say DB2, all of these support SQL language, SQL language. Now, when it comes to Oracle, obviously you need to have a tool which will support this so you can actually connect to the server. So the tool for Oracle is called SQL Star Plus, and it is written this way. So when you see this, there are two versions of SQL Star Plus exists. SQL Star Plus as a character mode, CLI, or a character or command line interface, which is a black and white screen with just text. Or there is another format of SQL Plus, which is a Windows version of it, and it is Windows version. Okay, so these are the tools initially Oracle had when 20 years ago we used to use only SQL Plus, and it used to be character line or command line interface CLI. So how does it look like? So I have my Oracle server running on one of the boxes here. So let's say, for example, if you want to interact with SQL Plus, you start command line, and if you on this server, let me also increase the font here a little bit so it is very well displayed. I will modify the shortcut, and also let me make that a max screen. Let me fit this. So here you can see this is a character line interface and or a command line interface. You can start SQL plus by typing a command like this. And what happens is now you see this command line interface where it is just basically commands you can type. First thing you need to know is what is the username to log in into your database. Every user also has a password, and then there is a database. There are three pieces we discussed about like yesterday. To connect to Oracle database, you need username, you need a password for that user, and a service name where you are going to connect. In this case, my case, I'm going to connect to a database called XE, which is Express Edition. So here I don't know the username password. So your database administrator will be able to provide. Let us say he says, okay, connect as system and password is Oracle and XE is the database name, and you give an enter key. Here you can see that you're connected to database with with the character mode. Now you can type commands here like say select um, let's say I can simply say show user. Okay, this is a simple command. So you can type commands here. Now, one more thing I want to see is if you had the Windows version of SQL Plus, Mona Lisa on your machine, you had this Windows version of SQL Plus yesterday. That is started using SQL Plus W. I'm not sure if I have it and looks like I don't have SQL Plus W. Or sometimes you might just have an icon where you're double clicking on the icon and starting it. Now, for me, in this instance, I don't have SQL plus W, so it is not a Windows version tool. But you can see this is the command line tool, and this is where we type commands. Now, after this was 20 years ago, that's how we used to interact. So now let's go back and look at this. There is a new tool called SQL Developer, SQL Developer. Okay. Now here, don't get confused with the job title. This is a tool which we can use, and it is a it looks much better. Like it is a graphical tool. Like you have experience with already. You saw this before. So it starts like this. It is Oracle's product, Oracle SQL Developer. This is provided for free. You don't have to pay any license for the SQL Developer. A lot of people, when you work at a job, like a lot of people use this tool because it's not easy to type in the character mode and do a lot of programming. Here what happens is it looks neat and clean, and then you will be able to do programming with this. So let's say how you connect is you're going to create connections, and once you have your connection, you can double click on it and it is going to connect. See, it is running, connecting to my Oracle server, and I'm connected now. So now let's say show user, you can do the same command. And here, instead of giving an enter key, if we give an enter key, it's editor, so it goes to the next line. What you can do is just run. Okay. Now, what is advantage here is you can see here you can type commands on the top window and you will get output in the bottom window. And then you can also see all your tables and other stuff on the left side here from the menus. So what we'll do is for now, because it is easier to learn using SQL Developer, we'll just use SQL Developer. But you should know what is the difference between when we write what is SQL and what is a SQL Star Plus. This is actually a tool which is provided by Oracle to interact with Oracle database. And then SQL Developer is a GUI tool. Um, so GUI. Okay, I will actually do this. CLI is command line interface. Same way GUI is graphical user interface. Okay. Now sometimes you will also hear a word called IDE. It is IDE, integrated development environment. Okay. For example, there is Eclipse. Eclipse is an example of that. Eclipse like this. Okay. So anyway, for our database, what we need to know is a username, password, and a database service name. Okay. So what we will do will throughout this course, we'll continue to use SQL Developer. We know how to connect already. So what we'll do is we'll look at first of all, you have to store data in the database, right? So let me get rid of all this and let's take a look at what is called data types. So Oracle has bunch of data types. Okay. First of all, when you're storing data, you want to store character data type. Okay. Now, what is character data type? So, for example, name, address, stuff like that goes into character data types. And also, there is one more thing called nchar. Nchar, whenever you see this n in the front, it actually represents, it is called national character set. So that means if you just do a char, that stores English, whereas nchar, you can store like, say, for example, Italian, Russian, or Spanish, or maybe Thai, Chinese, stuff like that. So these two are basic character data types. Then there is something called variable character data types. So that is nothing but var stands for variable character data type, and it is called varchar2. And also equivalent national varchar2 is also there. So you can see that N stands for national. So these are the two data types you will use for storing character data. Now, what is the difference between why do we need character and varchar? Is first of all, character, if you specify name is 20 characters, okay, and you store only, let's say, for example, my name. What is happening here is it is only 5 characters of name, but internally it will store it as Sarma with 15 spaces like this. Okay. So that means you're wasting like 15 character space here because it is always a fixed length character data type. Fixed length is the property of this. Okay. So let me talk about variable length or variable character data type, right? Now, variable length, what happens is, now let's say, for example, you specify varchar of 20, okay? So name is of 20 characters, 20 varchars, okay? And if you're typing my name, it will exactly store it as Sarma. It doesn't store it as Sarma and 15 spaces. So here it is a variable length character type. Okay. So here length is variable. So any questions so far with the varchars? I will continue going and then you can stop me if you have questions. So in the database, you have to store obviously text data types. These are the text data types we use, characters and varchars. Most of the databases like DB2 or MySQL also support these data types and they look similar. Excuse me. So let's talk about number data types. In Oracle, the best thing with number data type is one big number, and that will take care of anything you want, like decimals. Excuse me. So in Oracle, good thing is we have number data type, and it will be able to store anything like numbers, decimals, floats, all combinations of stuff. But you also optionally have an option to say what is the precision and scale. And we'll talk about precision and scale when we really create a table with numbers. There is another data type called float. Floats are the decimals. Generally, number will do good, but you can also use floats if you're doing mathematics kind of functionality. You might need more accuracy, especially when you're doing, let's say, stock market. They want more accurate numbers. So then you can use floats for your transactions. Now, obviously, you want to store dates in your database. So date is a data type, and there is also a timestamp. Okay. Now, in Oracle, date format is whatever is the format, but what this data type stores is it also has a time portion to it. So this is date plus time. It is not only date, even though we just write date, it internally contains date and time. And also timestamp is much more accurate date time. Okay. So this one, let's put it this way. It is accurate, and that means you can go up to nanoseconds inside, and also it is very accurate date time. And also this time zone supports time zone, because now you can tell the timestamp is in Eastern timestamp, or you can specify timestamp is in GMT or UTC. That kind of support is provided with timestamp. So you have characters, numbers, dates, and timestamps. Now there are special data types called blobs or lobs. Basically, it is called large objects. Okay, so what is this is basically it is large objects, and there are two types of large objects. One is a character large object, and it is called CLOB, and the other one is a large object binary large object, and that is called blob, sorry, blob, like that. Okay, now these are used to store, like, say, music files or images if it is binary. But you can also store, like, say, documents, like huge amounts of documents inside the database, which are character type. Okay. Now, there is one special data type within Oracle is called B file. Okay. Now, what does this B file mean is it is nothing but binary file. Okay. This is a file stored outside database. Now, so far, all these particular data types, the data is stored within the database. But whereas, let's say, for example, you have a PDF file or you have a video file, these are big. So you just store them on the file system outside, and then you have a reference to the to that file using B file. Okay. B file is a database object, but it doesn't really store the file inside. It just stores the pointer to that file, and file itself is stored on the file system. Okay. So this is basic introduction to what data types we have within database. If you have any questions, ask me. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll start taking a look at what database objects we are going to interact with. Okay, I'm going to delete this. So, okay. Okay, so next thing we'll talk about is when somebody says create some database objects or creating database objects, you should have experience with database objects. What do they mean by a database objects is in Oracle database, let's say, you will be storing data in tables. Okay, all data goes into tables only. There is no other way of storing data. So let's say table is one of the database object, view is one of the database object, sequence is another one, and let's say synonym is another one. Okay, so these are few database objects. Right now we'll start with this, and there are a lot of other database objects you can learn later. But let's start with the table first, because that is our basic understanding. We have to get understanding of a table. Now, to create a table, first of all, you need to connect to the database, right? So what we need to do is, let's say we go to our database administrator and say, hey, can you give me a user where I can create some tables, let's say. Now on this new server I don't have Scott user. So we should create a Scott user. Let's say you go to your database administrator, you say, can you create a Scott user, please? So database administrator says, okay, let me create the Scott user for you. So let's see how he will create, right? First of all, he will say he will select username from DBA underscore users where user underscore username equal to Scott. First, he will make sure Scott exists or not. So when I check that, what happens is he doesn't see any Scott user. But let's say when he does this, he will see all the other users existing. So Scott does not exist. So first of all, you are going to the database administrator and saying, can you create Scott? So your database administrator internally says, okay, create user Scott identified by Tiger. Okay. So identified by Tiger is nothing but the password he is specifying. Username is Scott. And you see what I did with the Tiger here is I put it in small letters because passwords are case sensitive. So let's create that user. Now this is how your database administrator will create a user. Okay, you don't have to learn this because it is administration, but now you know how DBS will create a user. Now there is a lot more syntax than this, but I just created a basic user. Now what will happen is let's actually create a connection to the database using Scott user. So let's say for example this is our database, okay, and I will say what is the connection name is Scott, and the username is Scott, and you know the password is Tiger, and all the other details are same, and I test it. So you see how it says there is something missing. Basically, all it says is create session privilege is not there and login is denied. Why that happens is because user was just created, but he was not granted any privileges to connect to the database. So you go back and say, hey, I'm getting this error. So what database administrator does is he grants some privileges. Grant connect comma resource to Scott. This is how they assign some privileges to the user, and you see the grant got succeeded. Now let's go back to our connections here and see how I already have a Scott. So let me say connections, new connection. And what we can do is click on Scott and test it. And now you can see that it is successful because now Scott has enough privileges. Okay, so that's all we are going to do with the DBA part. So let's close this connection. And also I'm going to close the actual system connection here. But with the Scott user, I can double click now and Scott is logged in. Here I will say show user and you can see that it is a Scott user. Okay. So it clearly tells you that you're logged in as a Scott user now. So now what we need to do is we need to create some tables. Okay. So why do we need to create tables is Scott was just created and we don't have any tables here. How do I know there are no tables? Is you can try out a command called select star from tab. This is only for Oracle, but what it does is it tells you there are no output here in the bottom, and that looks like there are no tables. So let's leave that there and let's create a basic table. We looked at the phones example yesterday, phone book. So let's create table phone book, phone book like this. Okay. And the way you write it is you start a bracket and then you close a bracket for that. So every bracket you start, you have to close. So I just closed it. Now inside what I will do is first of all, what is the person name, right? Person underscore name. Okay. And we looked at the data types. Now, is the number suitable for this? No, we have to have some characters data. So what we'll do is we'll just say varchar 2 of how much length you want for this name. You are going to store like say 10 characters. Okay. And then comma, what else you want to store? Like say for example, age of this person. and what is the age is a number, and number will accept anything big. Like say for example, if you leave it as a number, then age can be like long like that. Whereas age is only suitable, I mean for us at least, we can say age is 1 to 99 only range wise. So what we'll do here is we'll say number is 2, two places for number, and then comma and phone number. Now what I will do here is I will give an enter key and say phone number. And now phone number, let's say for example, look at the phone number part, right? If you use data type number, then you can write whatever 10 digit numbers, right? You don't have characters in there. Let's say for example, I'm going to say 987-654-1234. That is your phone number. But what if you want to write, let's say, you want to write India phone numbers? That will be 01191. And as soon as you specify this as a number, because that first zero does not mean anything, Oracle will try to remove that zero and it will corrupt the value. So you see how it removes the zero in the front and it will corrupt the value. So to avoid that kind of scenario, we'll just store it as a varchar. And when we store it as a varchar, it will not remove that front zero, so it will not corrupt anything. Now let's put it as 20 to allow all the international calls and let's say extension numbers and all that stuff. So for now, we typed command here, which will create the table. And if we run this statement, here you can see the table phone book created, right? And also if you look at the first command here, if I click on run, you can see that phone book table exists now. And ignore the third column for now. But now Oracle is telling that Scott user has one phone book table. Also, you can do one more thing with the developer is on this side, if you expand these tables, you can see your table here and you can click on it and it tells you exactly what columns you have, what is the column order, all that stuff. Also, you can here expand and you can see all the column names. Okay. So clicking here again, if you see here, data is there and model, all that stuff is here. It is generating the model for you. So there you go. You can do some data modeling here by looking at this. It you can query for constraints, triggers. Anyway, you can play with this. So for now, what we did here is with one simple command, we created a table. So we know how to create a table, right? Also, you also saw this visualized way of looking at what columns are there inside the table. But let's say after some time you will forget, right, what columns are there. So let's ask the database in a different way called, there is a command called describe table name. Table name is phone underscore book. And when you run this command, it actually types what columns are in the table. And you can see here there are three columns and exactly as we created. So this is a basic describe command. And if you're running on a character mode, you don't have this privilege of looking at graphics. So it is one way to check what table exists and what is its structure. Okay. So any questions so far? Otherwise, I will continue with putting some data inside. So one more thing we'll do here is first thing we'll say, is there any data inside this table? For now, let me just remove everything and say, now we know that there is a table called um, phone book. Okay, you can see here it pops out and I can click on enter key and then it shows. I can say select star from phone book. That is how you generally see what is stored inside the phone book, right? Phone book table. So here you can see there is no output because there are no rows stored inside. So let's just go ahead and put some data inside. Now the way you do it is insert into You will say phone book, table name. And here you're going to specify what is the column names you're going to provide. Okay. So for example, I'm going to provide phone number first. This is just to show you that you don't have to go in order. And then I'm going to specify the age, and then I'm going to specify, hold on. Okay, so the last thing I will specify is person name, person underscore name. Okay, so these are the three columns. Now you have to specify what are the values for this. Okay, so values are, now we have to go back and check what was the phone number. I remember that it was character data type. Any character data types, you put them in single quotes like that, and say phone number is 987 654 1234. That was the format we wanted to store our phone numbers. Now, what is the age of this person? Is 20 years old. Because this is a number, you don't have to put it in single quotes. Even if you put it in single quotes, Oracle will not give you error. It will work. Because what it will do is it will internally store it as a number. So for now, we know that it is a number. And also, what is the person name? Let's say Suresh is the person name. Okay. And then you put a semicolon. What you're doing here is simply you're inserting one row into the phone book table. So run it and you see the output. It says one row inserted. Let me go back and select the data by clicking on this particular row here, and I can run it, and you can see now we have one row, and all, even though we used phone number first, the whatever data went into the right place. It is exactly stored as we want. So this is how you insert data. Now let's say, for example, I don't know all the data. So I know only, let me just take this and I'm going to change this. Let's say, for example, now I want to insert the age and person name, but I don't know what is the phone number for now. Okay. So what I can specify is I just specify the age, and also I specify some name. Let's say, for example, my name. Okay. And what I know here is I don't know the phone number. I know the age and person name. So when you run this command, what it does is it also insert the row. But what happened to the data is it has null for the phone number because there is no value provided. Okay, by default it is null. So this is this can be used when you know all the column names, and this can be used only when you know some column names, I mean column values, but you don't have all the column values. And also when you don't provide, it automatically puts a null. So let's look at one more scenario where I will provide the original format like this. Okay, I will provide all the columns, but here in this case, what is the person name? Let's say, for example, we'll also change this to some other 9999. And remember, we wanted to have this 011 to India number 91 dash. And then there is a, let's say, for example, there is a extension of 82. That is the extension part. So that's why we wanted this to be long, 20 characters, so it can fit all these big numbers. Now let's say person name is here, let's say Raj, and also age. I don't know what is the age of the person, so I will just say null. And you can do a capital null also like this, and it is not in the single quotes. And when you run, you know how to insert a null. Now what it is saying is value too large for column Scott, and it is telling you exactly where the error is. It says phone number column. So I think most likely this is the problem that has too many characters. So I'm going to fix that. And now it says one row inserted. So let's see if this data looks good. Okay. So mainly what I want to show you here is whatever you store is stored properly. And when you don't know the value, so here we knew all values. Here we know only two columns values. Here we used a null. Even though I specified all column names, I specified null here. So that's how you insert data with all column names, some column names, or the nulls. Any questions? So now we have these rows in the database. Okay, so let's work with delete command, right? Sorry, not delete command, like update command. Here you can see these two rows exist, and in one place we don't know the phone number. Now after 10 days, you collected that phone number via Facebook or some other way. Now you want to change this row here and update this value here. So what you will do, say for example, update, okay, and let's say phone. Let me first update Raj's age and we'll go from there. Phone book. Okay. Set. Now what is so you're telling okay, or you're telling that you want to update phone book table and set age equal to, let's say for example 50 is the age for Raj. Now if we run this, what it is going to do is you can see that it updated three rows. I did not want to update three rows. By mistake, when I run that, it updated all three rows because we forgot to tell for which user we want that condition. So here you should continue writing where person underscore name equal to. Now remember whatever you used here, uppercase, lowercase, or mixed case, that's what you have to write here. So you have to, if you write this, it will not find the row. So you can try this. Let's say, for example, we'll set it to age 35 and run it. So it says zero rows updated because it cannot find small small case of Raj. So let's change this to uppercase of Raj, and then it will work. Okay. So what I was telling you earlier is if you don't use the where clause, it is going to change value for all rows. So you have to make sure you use a where clause so it affects only certain row. Now let's do one more update where the phone number is missing for the second person. I will just say update phone book set phone number equal to, let's say I only know the extension. So I'm going to say 87 is the extension, X87 for now. And then you have to definitely tell for which person. So I will say person name equal to Sarma, like uppercase, like that. Okay. Now run it and look at the data. So you can clearly see that I got the extension number saved now. Okay. And you can run this update several times. As soon as you get the full number, you will update it and it looks better. Okay. Now what we did is we created a table, we inserted data, we updated data, we also selected data. Now we can delete data. Okay. So for delete data, what we'll do is we'll say delete from table. Table name is nothing but phone book, phone book. Okay, like this. And where, so here you have to be very careful. You want to delete only based on a condition. If you make that a habit, then you will never do a mistake. Let's say, for example, I want to delete age wherever it is 50 age, or you can also do a greater than or equal to 20. And then whoever matches that condition will be gone from the database. Okay. So now let's just run this. And what happens is it deletes all three rows because initially remember it is the two users are of 50 age and one is 35. And you're telling here anybody over more than 20, you remove them. So all rows are deleted. Now, if you look at the table, table becomes empty. Cool. So that's how you delete data and update data. Any questions? Now, for a second, if you take a break, what I'm going to do is I'll in the background I need some more tables because we need to play with the data. So what I will do is here I will go to where is our Oracle training, and there is a demo tab SQL. I'm going to just run this and create a table in the background. All the tables will be created, and I'm going to run it as a script. This is all done, and clear the output here. Okay, so I did some magic, and suddenly now I have a lot of tables. Okay, so let's say for example select star from employee emp table, right, like this, and you can see there are a bunch of employees in the employee table. Okay, so it has the employee number, employee name, job, who is the manager of that employee, what is the hire date, when was he hired. This data is very old. You can see that it is 1981 to 1997. And also you can see the salary of the person and what is the commission he gets and which department that employee is in. Okay. Now let's look at this. Say for example, if you have 10,000 rows, it is going to select star from EMP will give you all 10,000 rows. What we want to learn is how to do filtering. Filtering is very important. So we will learn how to do where clause. Okay. So first thing we'll say where. Now you see how there are multiple jobs here: clerk, salesman, analyst. Let's say I want to find out who are the salesmen and clerks. Let's say these are the two jobs we are interested in. So let's figure out all the people where their job in, okay, let's say for example, job equal to, okay, and we'll say for example, clerk should be in single quotes, obviously, like this, and also job, so like this, okay, and let's say for example, this query, okay. Now this will give an error because what we are telling it, if you read it as if it is English, SQL language was generated based on English. So you're asking select everything from employee table where job equal to clerk and job equal to salesman. Okay. Now, a person cannot have two jobs, right? He can have only one job. If you look at this as English, it is telling you this particular query is wrong because in English also you will not say, are you a clerk and a salesman? Um, in that case, there will be a new title. It is not like this. So here, how we fix this is we will learn something called in operator. Okay. So let's say in and everything should be in brackets. And also here we can give multiple values. So you can say comma, not just two things, but you can have two more things embedded. Now, if you run this query, the in clause will go and bring only people who are salesmen or clerks. Okay. So this is how you use the filter in. And by throwing a simple keyword called not in front of it, you can get everybody else other than who is not in this condition. So if you run this, you can see there is a president, manager, analyst, and a DBA. All of these people have the job which is not in clerk and salesman. So always try to read it in English, and it is very close to English. So you can easily see what is going on and can understand what it is. Okay. Let us look at one more example here. Let's say, for example, I want to do some queries based on salary. Okay. So let's say, for example, where sal between. Okay. Let me see if there is anybody who is getting 100 and let's say 500. Okay. Is there anybody who is earning only between 100 and 500? So I run and there is nobody here. Okay. So let's increase this to 1500. Let's see if there is anybody who is earning between 100 and 1500. So these are the people who are earning between 100 and 1500. Now, how would you do above, I mean, other than this range, right? Right now we are saying, give me anybody between 100 and 1500. You cannot do a not here. Remember that. You cannot say not between. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. That means they implemented a not for this also. Like what happened just now is we said where salary not between this range and it works. So that is something new. Now, if you run this on, let's say, Oracle 8 or 9, maybe it will give error. But why don't you just give it a try and see what happens? So for now, you know how to do a between and not between, basically. Same way, what we did initially was that I checked for job, and now I did a query with salary with numbers. Now what we'll do is let's do something with the names. Let's see. Okay, let me check who is what names exist. Let's say. Okay, let's try one small example here. What we'll do is show me all the users where e name, that is employee name, is like, which starts with, let's say, this is called wild character search. So let's say, for example, anybody's name starting with, let's say, B. Okay. Now you have to specify percentile or something else. This tells I don't care what is after B. Just bring all the names where it starts with B and whatever is after that. Okay. Now you can see there is one person like that. Now, let's say, for example, bring me all the users, all the employees where name starts with T and ends with K, let's say. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'll say start with T and end with K. And when I run this, I don't see anybody. So let's say, for example, let me try with T and anything in between and then ends with R. And there should be a Turner. Why is it not bringing that? So let's see what is stored inside. There is Turner here. Okay. So I'm thinking this is a varchar data type, I mean character data type table. So let me look at the refresh table format. Let's look at the EMP and let's click on EMP and see how name is stored as character, 10 bytes. Now what is happening is I explained that if you have a character data type, then their is length is what? Like length is 10 characters, right? If you see this Turner, internally it is stored like this because it is a 10 characters, Turner, and then it is appending 4 characters like this. Okay. So what we can do is I will show you how we can hard code that and then we can check and it works because now it says, hold on. So what is the command error? Command line tr like, is it this problem? Maybe. Okay, so it doesn't know how to do the blanks, I guess. Okay. You know what? For now, you can imagine the like has this functionality. We'll talk about what is that? Oh, here is the bug. Oops, I know. Okay. So earlier what I did is I put a semicolon here. That's why it is ending. Okay. Okay, now you can see the Turner works because now it starts with T, it has a R somewhere in between, and then it ends with 4 spaces. So it is actually matching some pattern and you can do a like this. So there is also, let me show you one more thing. If you look at all the employee names, let's figure out there is a name called uh, Jones, let's say. Okay. Now, what I will say here is like Percentile stands for any number of characters. Now let's say for example I want to see whatever is in the front, I don't care, but the third character should be n. That's how I want to query. Okay. So in that case, I will say percentile n percentile, right? So that means third character should be n. And let me get rid of that again. Now we know the error. Okay. I was looking only for the third character to be N, but it is returning Martin, where N is at the end, Alan, Turner, all of them. But what I want is exactly that N should be at the third position. So instead of saying percentile, what I will do is I will say exact position of N, ignore first character, ignore second character, tell me what is in the third character position, and tell me if there is a name which has, sorry, this is not question mark, but this is star, I think. Let's run this. What? So what was the oh end symbol? No, there is a symbol for single character check. What's happening here? Let me see, hold on. I am not using this regularly, so I forget this character name. So give me 1 second. Oracle wild characters, wildcards. Okay, so let's see wild characters. There should be two wild characters, percentile and underscore. There you go. Okay, so what we have to do is it says single character is represented by underscore. So now it will work. So you can see the third position n is working now. Okay. I just work on a lot of databases every day, so sometimes I get confused between these small things. As long as we're able to figure out using Google, we should be good. But we should exactly know what to search for, like I did here. I was looking for wild characters and it came to exact place. And actually you can see here it is bringing out Oracle 8i documentation. In any case, we are able to figure out. Okay? So that is how you do a like. Now let's say for example, I want to get all the names who are not like. You can do that actually. You can do the condition and reverse it. And now what happens is the Jones and there was another name. Those two will disappear from the list. Everybody else will be there. Okay. Now let's say for example, not like you don't want um, okay, let me do one more example here. Let's say, for example, anybody who has two L's in their name like this, LL, like that. And what happens is you can see this. And I can say, give me all the other names who have no two L's side by side. So for most of them, you can actually add a not in front, and then it reverses the order, check order. Okay, I think we covered a lot today. I would like to stop it here. If you have any questions, we'll discuss that. Otherwise, we will continue tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern. Okay, perfect. So I would expect you to practice. I will upload the video. Please watch video and practice again, and that will make you better at SQL. Thank you. Good night.